So here's the thing. Raise your hand if you would consider yourself a gamer. Targets exposed, take the shot! Games journalism is kind of a joke, and it has been for a while. It seems websites like Kotaku or Polygon can't go more than 2 weeks without saying something that gets them absolutely blasted online. Hell, just a few weeks ago, IGN gave the funny cartoon mouse game a 6 out of 10 because it was too much of a funny cartoon. We all know the complaints. Game journalists are either pretentious or have their mouths wrapped firmly around the AAA gaming industry's joystick. Oh, what the fuck? Despite these complaints, though, these websites do serve a function. Because of that aforementioned... do I want footage of me doing that? Fuck it. The industry is more willing to share things with these companies like insider stories or early looks at games before they come out, perks that are often not granted to even the most popular independent games journalists, for the most part. After all, why would you give an early copy of your game to this guy who might say it looks bad, when you could give it to this website that'll say that your D-tier hero shooter is the greatest thing since Team Fortress 2? And that's just kind of the way things are. Gaming journalism split into two sides. One is far more individualist, but is more limited in terms of resources. The other has all the resources they could possibly want, but are soulless and obnoxious. But what if we could bring them together? What if there was a website where you could get your gaming news and information, but it was run by the individual personalities that you would find on YouTube? What if you made a website for gamers, by gamers? And what if Doug Walker was involved? Blistered Thumbs was a website launched in 2010 and shut down in 2014. And for most people, that's the entire story. The end. Nah, I'm just kidding. I feel like that version of the story is a bit unfair. Blistered Thumb's downfall is a very wacky, entertaining, and fascinating story about how something that could have been a slam dunk failed in spectacular fashion. The only reason most people don't talk about it is because it tends to get overshadowed by the rest of Channel Awesome lore, which is somehow even more insane. But we'll save that for the 4-hour documentary in a few years. So I guess if no one else is interested in exploring this tale, I guess it's up to me. So grab your Mountain Dew, Doritos, and copy of Halo Reach as I take you through what happens when confidence meets incompetence in the story of Blistered Thumbs. Damn it, down, bow, bow. Wait, no, we can't use that. That's fucking Doug Walker's theme. We gotta do something else. God damn it. What am I gonna put? Let's put in the game dude again. Before we get into the story of Blistered Thumbs, I do need to give some context. ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com, later renamed to ChannelAwesome.com, was a website started by Doug Walker, his brother Rob Walker, and Mike Mashad in spring of 2008. See, at the time, Doug was already an internet celebrity thanks to his show, The Nostalgia Critic, where he would review old movies while screeching like a chimp. It sounded like an insult, but this shit was revolutionary at the time. However, everything changed when Doug's entire library of Nostalgia Critic and another series he made called 5-Second Movies was struck down due to copyright infringement. Alright, look, to make a long story that I'm probably gonna end up making a video on one day short, very early on in YouTube's life, there was basically no copyright moderation, meaning that entire movies and episodes of TV shows were being uploaded in 10-minute chunks. When the studios found out, they got mad, and since YouTube was still a new website and not the juggernaut that it is now, they decided to overcorrect in order to please the big dogs. If you had basically any copywritten footage in your video, even the amount that I am showing right now, you were rolling the dice. So Doug, not wanting to deal with that bullshit, moved to his own website, with Mike Mashad acting as the web host and CEO of their new company, Channel Awesome. And things were pretty successful. Over time, they would bring in more talent to expand the website, which helped bring in even more traction. This included people like Linkara, Todd in the Shadows, The Cinema Snob, Team 4-Star, and many more. Did you know that Team 4-Star was a part of Channel Awesome? By August of 2010, 40 people were posting videos to ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com. Many of whom had multiple series. If you count the people who were posting blogs and podcasts to the website, that number jumps to 57. This website was a big deal, and it was around that time that Channel Awesome was looking to expand, and they had what was, on paper, a pretty good idea. More websites. The idea was to split their talent among 3 different websites. That Guy with the Glasses, which would focus on movies and television, Inked Reality, which would focus on comics, animation, and manga, and the topic for today's video, Blistered Thumbs, which would focus on video games. All of which would fall under the umbrella of Channel Awesome. It was decided to go with Blistered Thumbs first, seeing how video games are just a larger market than comic books, and they already had a sizable amount of gaming content creators on the website. Hell, they already had their own section of the website called Blistered Thumbs, featuring such creators as Guru Larry, Ashens, Spoonie, and Angry Joe, who would end up being Blistered Thumbs' director of operations. Basically, he's the one running the website. Now, while Doug was enough of a star at the time to launch That Guy with the Glasses, he was also really the only one who could have done it single-handedly, so if Blistered Thumbs was going to work, they would need all hands on deck. Everyone who made gaming content on That Guy with the Glasses had to be on Blistered Thumbs. But because of this uncertainty at a Dougless website, that is Doug L-E-S, not Doug L-A-S, it was decided that Blistered Thumbs would be more than just a collection of critics crapping on contemporary games. This would be an all-inclusive website full of everything a modern gamer would need. News, interviews, editorials, let's plays, live streams, podcasts, even a spot where you can buy and sell your own games. On the forums, of course. Blistered Thumbs was clearly trying to cast as wide a net as possible, to cater to everything a gamer in 2010 would need. Now, in order to cover the more journalistic side of things, they began to poach talent from a similarly small website, kokugamer.com, which seems to have just been completely forgotten to time. Let me know in the comments if you ever used this website back in the day. I'm always curious about these things. And finally, on November 6th, 2010, Blistered Thumbs would launch, with a welcome message written by Angry Joe himself, which is 1/3 an advertisement for giving away, quote, a free Xbox 360, Kinect, PS3, PlayStation Move, Wii, all of which with games included, and a bunch of awesome retro systems with the best games of their own times. All in the first month. Yeah, they clearly wanted people to come to Blistered Thumbs. To make it, again quoting from the article, it's mega awesome ultra super bio Zord version of pure gaming win. I miss when people talked like this. The future looked bright for Blistered Thumbs. They had the talent, they had the journalists, they had the giveaways, and they had absolutely nothing to offer anyone. When you start a new website, you have to have a hook. YouTube was innovative in allowing people to post their own video content. Facebook was a more streamlined version of Friendster with Flash games, and Twisted Thumbs had no such draw.
Hey! You just said they had news and videos!
Correct, but I am a manipulative bastard who has withheld information from you for dramatic effect. See, both of those two theoretical draws had massive problems that prevented them from actually doing their job. Let's first talk about the reviews, or more accurately, all of the video content. Remember how I said that Doug would exclusively post on That Guy with the Glasses? Well, that wasn't a restriction held by everyone on the website. Doug only did that because of a very specific event that happened at a very specific time on YouTube. Once the movie studios calmed down and YouTube became the juggernaut that it is, things lightened up a little bit. Now, this isn't to say that YouTubers don't still deal with bullshit copyright stuff, they do, but it's a lot more manageable now. Look, I'm about to show unedited footage of the 1995 hit Johnny Mnemonic.
I want room service!
See, video's still here. Also, keep in mind that this whole kerfuffle only affected movies and TV shows. Video games, outside of that one time with Nintendo, never really had this problem. So people like Angry Joe, Ashens, and Guru Larry, they all had YouTube channels, and most of the content that was being uploaded to Blistered Thumbs was also being uploaded to YouTube. January 14th, 2011, Angry Joe Plays Connectimals, uploaded onto YouTube. Monday, January 10th, Angry Joe Plays Connectimals. Cabela's Dangerous Hunts 2011 review. Friday, December 31st, Cabela's Dangerous Hunts 2011 review. January 2nd, 2011 on YouTube. Why are you doing this, Angry Joe? I simply do not understand. Now, to be fair, they would usually upload it to Blistered Thumbs a few days in advance. But that's just not enough time to draw people to a brand new website. Hell, Spoonie barely uploaded anything to Blistered Thumbs at all. He uploaded like 4 videos that were already on That Guy with the Glasses, and then some coverage of PAX 2011 before just fucking off and never uploading anything there again. But that isn't even the most egregious example of worthless uploads to the site. Did you know that Critical was on Blistered Thumbs? Yes, that Critical. Long black hair, white t-shirt guy from Florida, famous for his role in Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. He was on Blistered Thumbs. But the only thing of his ever uploaded to the website was his QWOP video, which at the time it was added was already viral with 2 million views. So what I want to know is, why the fuck is this on this struggling website? Why would this draw people to Blistered Thumbs? Now you might be saying, oh, Strongman, this was just them trying to spread this video around, share it with a couple of people who might not have seen it. First of all, the video is more popular than the entire website, so not really doing too much there. And secondly, this wasn't a standalone article. He had his own section on the website under creators. Wanna know who else had their own section on the website as a creator? Peanut Butter Gamer and JonTron. You probably didn't know that because they never fucking said it in any of their videos. Probably because like 3 months later, they announced their own website, Normal Boots.
Oh! You piece of shit!
So by February of 2011, you had their successful YouTube channels, which they were frequently uploading to, and a website that they heavily promoted. So why the fuck would you watch Stairfax temperatures on Blistered Thumbs in August of 2011? The idea of begging incredibly popular people to host their videos on your site is just such a baffling idea to me. How is this supposed to draw in more eyes? It's not like it was exclusive content or anything. It's not like Critical said, hey guys, this week's video is going right to Blistered Thumbs, so go there and watch it. No! Hell, the people who were running the site didn't even do that. If none of the video makers on your website are making exclusive content, at least nothing worthwhile, why would people go there to watch it? Only the most die-hard fans would be chomping at the bit for new Angry Joe content. They wouldn't be willing to wait those couple of days. Most average people would be willing to wait. But what about news? They had news! Sure they did, but it fucking sucked. First of all, most of it wasn't even news. Look, the best way I can describe this is by doing a little experiment. I did my best to find the front page stories for Blistered Thumbs and 2 competitors, GameSpot and Destructoid, at around the same time, August 10th to the 14th of 2011. Blistered Thumbs had a review of Fruit Ninja Connect, a video of 2 guys discussing sequelitis, an interview with one of the devs of Serious Sam 3, a retrospective on a character from Final Fantasy IV, a rapist reviewing a game for the PS1 called Gunner's Heaven, some Doctor Who bullshit, why the fuck is this on my gaming website, a review of a game from a year ago, an update on an online movement to get the Xenoblade games to the West, not confirmation from Nintendo that it's happening or anything like that, just the movement posted a open letter online to Nintendo, and that's the whole article. An announcement of a new game. Oh, wait, that's actually news! And I shit you not here, boys and girls, a summary of an article someone else wrote for a different website. I would only consider 2 of those articles actually news. The interview with the developer of an upcoming game, and the announcement of a new game. However, all of these were tagged as news and in the news section of the site. However, compare this to Destructoid and GameSpot. I won't go over all of their front page articles, but on Destructoid, you could find recent coverage of a Quake convention that just happened, information on how to trade your DS to get a discounted 3DS, and a discussion of their time spent with an early copy of Dead Island. GameSpot had a news story about THQ firing 200 employees, a different review of Fruit Ninja Connect, and an article discussing their time spent playing a new game mode for League of Legends that hadn't come out yet.
Wait a second. I like League of Legends. I will now read this article to learn more about this upcoming game mode.
You see what I'm getting at here? Most of the news on Blistered Thumbs is just their regular videos. And whenever there was news, it was either buried under all of that content, or other websites were reporting on it, or reporting on more interesting stories. And again, I can't stress, most of the stuff listed here just isn't news anyways. You could maybe make the argument for Fruit Ninja Connect. That was a game that recently came out, and like I said, GameSpot also had a review of it. But you cannot convince me that a review of a PS1 game is in any way news. Who would have thought that Justin Carmichael would deceive us like this? And this isn't even talking about the actual quality of the writing in these articles. I am now going to read to you the entirety of an article entitled Rumor: There Will Be a Halo Movie. Microsoft's Frank O'Connor appeared at the Future of Television East conference last week, boasting that they would like to have Halo on, quote, any screens we have access to. Soon after, a scheduled panel of an... fucking Christ. Soon after, a scheduled panel, an unnamed network executive did just that and asked, we want to do something with Halo.
That's not a question, Professor.
O'Connor replied, bring piles of money. Soon after, the answer was true in a lounge area. There will be a Halo movie. After all the speculation, rumors, and turmoil that Hollywood went out to the first time, what the fuck? Oh god. After all the speculation, rumors, and turmoil that Hollywood went to the first time with this project, it appears that we are going to see the hype machine in action again. Harold Goldberg questioned why the film was halted the first time around, and O'Connor had this to say. It was the lawyers. When they went behind closed doors with the contracts, things fell apart. The problem was that the movie company couldn't make any money beyond the movie. In the age of money-making machines these days, sometimes it just comes down to the legal system to put a halt to things. Since Microsoft owns the sole rights to Halo, they would get any profits off the merchandising of Halo universe. One questions if this executive will adhere to these rules when getting the project off the ground, or if it will be halted yet again. The good news that in the past it seems that they wanted to make sure the Halo name does well to both gamers and the consumer markets to ensure a successful film. Microsoft has been on record stating that they will allow the directors to make their own interpretations of the film. With this news, one can hope things will pan out for the best for the fans of the series to finally get what they want. Yeah, this thing is riddled with grammatical mistakes that a 13-year-old middle school dropout could probably pick up on. I really like the good news that in the past it seems. So, as you can see, the website was a mess. Not exactly a great foot forward. The news was either uninteresting or something being covered on a more popular and prominent website, and the video content wasn't original to the site either. So there was literally nothing to draw people to Blistered Thumbs. But hey, you know what? They're still new. They just launched the site after all, and there are two huge gaming events coming soon. The 2010 Game Awards and E3 2011. The perfect chance to show that these guys had what it takes to—
Stop right here. You can tell right away this guy's f***ing with me.
Alright, listen, I have to talk about this, okay? I'm not just bringing this up because haha, funny meme, no. I think that Blistered Thumbs' coverage of E3 2011 and the 2010 Game Awards are very important to this story. A quick correction from Editing Strongman here. The event that I'm talking about is not E3 2011, but E3 2010. It doesn't really affect my point when exactly this event happened. You'll see in a couple minutes what I'm talking about. Just keep in mind, even though I say that this happened in 2011, it happened in 2010, alright? Alright. There's this infamous rant by Lord Cat, who was another Channel Awesome contributor who was brought over to Blistered Thumbs, where he basically blames the entirety of BT's demise on the infamous Spoony betrayal incident. Basically, Spoony and Angry Joe were at E3 2011, and Spoony reacted in a very over-the-top negative way to an XCOM game that got announced.
There was one word searing through my mind like bolts of fire, and that word, betrayal!
What?
Betrayal! Betrayed me! This game sucks!
When you were at E3 that one year, and you decided to go up and down the hallways screaming about XCOM's betrayal, and Joe decided to ask people, can I choke you on camera? Guess what happened, Spoonie? Guess what fucking happened? The whole gaming industry turned its back on me. I went to GDC the following year, and I had a chance to interview Notch, Mojang, Specifications, Minecraft. Had a chance. A fucking chance. He was hot then. That was going to be huge for This Week in Games. That was going to be huge for the stream. It was going to be amazing. And you know what happened? The representative at Mojang caught wind that we were going to interview Notch. And he stepped in. And he said, oh, I've heard of you. You're with that guy with the glasses. You're with Blistered Thumbs. And I tried to tell them, no, I'm not. But he said my name was associated with them. And he heard what you did. Making a fucking jackass of yourself at E3. You fucking moron. So they shot it down.
Now this whole rant tends to get clowned on, especially the whole Notch interview part, because it would mean that Mojang didn't do a background check before scheduling an interview with someone, which I just don't believe. But I do believe there is a kernel of truth in this pile of bullshit. I do think that it was behavior like this that led to the destruction of Blistered Thumbs. Not this one incident, I mean their entire fucking careers up to that point. Remember how I said that gaming websites get perks by sucking off the industry? Well, these guys weren't known for doing that. They were blistered thumbs, not blistered knees. Their whole shtick was being angry and crass towards bad video games, or even good games. Remember, the head of the website was a guy named Angry Joe, for fuck's sake. And did they try to button themselves up, take things a little bit more professionally, and show that they were willing to play ball? No! They were still the same jackasses that they were in their original videos, and that's fine for that. That's how they got successful on YouTube in the first place. That worked. But you need to change the way you act in a different setting like this. And while Spoonie's little outburst at E3 probably didn't help, it was really Angry Joe's coverage of the previous year's video game awards that really screwed them. Let me set the stage. It's December 11th, 2010. A little over a month after the website first launched, and Angry Joe managed to get himself a spot in the press at the VGAs, and he wanted to speak to Jeff Keighley. What followed was a duel equal in infamy to that held between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. Angry Joe is Hamilton. Despite being called an interview, Joe is not here to ask questions. He's here to basically shame the VGAs, and he makes that very clear at the start.
I'm here with Jeff, who, I have a bone to pick with this particular man, all right?
And you can see in Jeff's eyes the exact moment when he decides, fuck it.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
Every single criticism Joe attempts to make, Jeff dismantles in a single sentence. It's genuinely amazing to behold.
With particular categories like Best Independent Game Fueled by Mountain Dew, it kind of takes away... Yeah?
We don't have that category this year.
Oh, so you took away the Best Independent Game Fueled by Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. We have Best Independent Game, which is being presented by Guillermo del Toro.
What's with the lack of underrepresentation of PC gaming? Where's the MMO categories? It's a huge market, and yet there's no PC games, no strategy games, no MMOs.
What MMOs should have been nominated for Game of the Year this year?
There are so many. Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy MMO?
Yeah.
This year.
Not this year. Not this year.
Exactly. Didn't come out this year.
Who selects the games, and what are their qualifications to select the games that get voted on this
pretty public.
contest?
It's an advisory board of journalists from all the top publications, GameSpot, IGN,
Are you serious?
Entertainment Weekly. Yeah.
That's new information to us. That's perfect.
Very publicly available, Joe, if you look online.
What makes it better is that after Joe's third failed attempt, the gloves come off and Jeff just starts tearing into him. And you can tell it's getting to him. This isn't fake YouTuber anger, this is genuine rage.
This is not how I wanted to do it.
Come on, you're
can't-
attacking me on the
it's a
independent game, which is
look,
not what it is this year. You're telling me MMO should be nominated for Game of the Year, yet you can't name the MMOs it should be.
Look,
and you're telling me that you don't know who's voting on the awards when it's public. So, I mean, come on, man, you have these rants.
Look,
but they're thinly veiled.
they're not thinly veiled, okay? Basically, I think that your show appeals to the lowest common denominator amongst gaming. Not every gamer is a slobbering idiot sitting on his mom's couch.
This guy just does not catch a fucking break this entire interview. It's amazing. But believe me when I tell you that what happened next was absolutely spectacular. December 14th, 2010. Angry Joe uploads a video titled, Jeff Keighley Answers Your Questions, VGA's 2010, to Blistered Thumbs. There has never been a more deceptive title in the history of the internet. This video is not merely an upload of the interview as it is. No, Angry Joe couldn't leave well enough alone. This is Joe bitching and whining for 20 minutes straight about how Jeff wasn't the nicest to him, while somehow making Joe look even more incompetent. Firstly, before we get into the obvious reasons why this is a bad idea, he starts the video by explaining his version of the background, the series of events that led us here. He says that he had been emailing the VGAs for about a week prior to flying out in order to try and get a proper sit-down interview scheduled. However, nothing ended up being scheduled.
I was in email talks for at least a week back and forth saying that I wanted a real interview, a sit-down interview. I wanted time with one of the executive producers to ask questions from my audience and from people across the internet that have problems with the VGAs. They knew straight up what I wanted.
While at the VGAs, Jeff apparently came running up to Joe suddenly, telling him he had 2 minutes, and then the interview happened.
He walks across the celebrity carpet, and then he disappears again. I don't know where he is. And then out of nowhere, I literally see him sprinting towards me, and he's like, Joe, come on, you got 2 minutes, go. Joe, you got 2 minutes, go.
So, that just makes Jeff seem like a real stand-up guy, doesn't it? I mean, there was no interview scheduled, because you don't schedule an interview with only a week's advance. Jeff was under no obligation to give Joe even a second of his time, but because he knew Joe wanted to talk to him, he managed to squeeze in a little bit of time to give him some content for his brand new video game website. And the first thing this asshole says to him is, I have a bone to pick with you. No wonder Jeff decided to fuck with him. Also,
Final Fantasy didn't come out this year. He said it himself. It didn't come out this year.
No, he didn't, dumbass. You did.
Final Fantasy?
Final Fantasy MMO?
Yeah.
This year.
Not this year. Not this year.
Exactly. Didn't come out this year.
You said it first, and then he proceeded to use it to show that you didn't do any research. He then proceeds to go on multiple rants about how Jeff is an asshole and was being unprofessional.
He knew this is not an environment to conduct an interview in. He knew to come up at the last freaking second and put an extreme time limit on me, to put me on my back foot. And in addition to that, instead of saying, you know what, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, but I'm gonna give you a very focused 2 minutes, look at the way he conducted himself. Constantly looking off, looking at the celebrities. Who gives a shit about Dane Cook?
He also adds another segment with him at the press junket post VGAs, where he continues to make a fool of himself, and look, you get the point. This is a horrendous video, which made Joe, and by extension, the rest of Blistered Thumbs, look like a bunch of whiny babies. And like I said, this is right after the website launched. This was like their first big interaction with the industry as a whole. No wonder no one wanted to work with Blistered Thumbs after this. This is why they only had shitty news stories or stuff being covered elsewhere. No one wanted to work with these fucking clowns. This is the exact opposite of putting your best foot forward. This is tripping before you even take a step and falling face first into some dog poo. Look, I've been very mean to Angry Joe in this video, and I didn't mean for that to happen. I don't know, the guy never watched his stuff. But it's kind of inevitable since he was the one who was running this dumpster fire. Well, was. In late 2011, Angry Joe was removed from Blistered Thumbs entirely. In fact, by that point, a lot of the Channel Awesome talent was off the site. The website also received a bit of a facelift. All of this clearly done to try and fix their image and rehabilitate themselves a little bit. But it was too late. The website was a total mess and, more importantly, was not respected by the industry, journalists, or gamers. So it slowly died off. The final post of the website was made on January 17th, 2014 by the company's CEO, Mike Mashad, explaining that the site would be closing down and any remaining staff would be moved back to that guy with the glasses, now renamed to channelawesome.com, where I am sure they had long and fulfilling careers. Blistered Thumbs was a website doomed to fail. Sure, perhaps in some universe where everyone on the site cleaned up their act and posted a lot of exclusive content and really made a genuine effort to try and make a professional website, maybe it could have stood a chance. But that is far from the universe that we live in. There was just this level of genuine naivety seen in basically everyone, not just on Blistered Thumbs, but Channel Awesome as a whole. They all seem to think that somehow angrily reviewing movies and TV shows will be a stepping stone to get them into making movies and TV shows. That's why they made those movies to begin with. But Blistered Thumbs shows why this is nothing more than a pipe dream. No company in the industry is going to want to work with someone who routinely shits on their products or acts like a jackass. Well, maybe that last one is a little bit more forgivable nowadays. Unfortunately, that was their entire career, so they were just screwed. That being said, the website wasn't a total failure. Well, it was. But it did have some fans. The comments on that last post are full of people just earnestly lamenting its loss or going on about how much the website meant to them. It's touching, in a way. These people saw something in this website, and to be fair, there was some level of talent here, just not enough to draw in an audience, but enough to keep at least some people around for a few years. So that's something to be proud of, I suppose. And besides, if nothing else, this place did give us some really funny moments.
Who gives a shit about Dane Cook?
I'm Sir Strongman, and that was the thing.